Yo, what's up, No Cap family? Domi Dow Jones here, special guest. And before I introduce him, I just want to let y'all know this is more than just a producer of mine. We've been another cat. We've been doing music since I was 17. I think I met you. I was about 17 years old, just fresh out of high school, and man. He's more like a mentor to me as well. So I'm gonna let him, we're gonna go into his story and all of that. But and first of all, I know y'all noticed we're missing my brother Reese. Reese is don't ever think if you don't see him he ain't on the show. He on the show. Just so y'all know, you know, Reese is family. But I am here with my other brother, Black Ceasar. You know, I know y'all probably never seen him. Y'all just hear the music and, you know, what's your tag? Whatever your tag is on the
Black
music.
Seas, we got a hit right
here. Yeah,
you
got a few of them. You got
yeah, I put 3 of them on there now. I put 3 tags on
there. Yeah. But y'all probably never seen him in person, or especially in this capacity. You know, we're sitting down and, you know, in the therapy environment here, man. So, you know, and I know we've you got to think through these 17 years how much has transpired, how much we've grown. Because when I met you in Alexandria, I think, or maybe it was at Kane's studio.
Nah, the first time I met you, Big Cat brought you through to my crib when I was living over and Massaponax in the house, because I had a studio at my house when Big Cat was
that was the first time?
That was the first time you came and dropped the verse for his joint. That was the first time we met.
Grind Mode?
Not the Grind Mode joint, the
it might have been a three-man
Oh no, you talking about the song. Yeah, I believe it was Grind Mode. It was Grind Mode.
Yeah.
I forgot what the name of the project was at that time.
That was the first official record I was on, like official song.
Oh wow!
I was ever on Grind Mode.
Yeah.
And I remember, you know, that it was going on his soundtrack, and this was like a big deal for me. I'm like, yo, the music is going in the movie, like.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, and then the premiere at the school in the whole auditorium, like that was major. Did you speak at that?
I didn't speak at that. But I would have to say that at that time, he made me want to press harder. Like, this brother would literally coming from chemo treatments and was working on music like right after. And I mean, he would be tired, but rest in peace to Big Cat, but he would push consistently. He never let anything stop him. And that kind of gave me a second win as far as musically. Like, the impact that he had on the people that were around him at that time was dynamic. You know what I'm saying? So, although I wasn't at the premiere, you know, for him to include me in and saying, hey, I need X, Y, Z, and we were able to accomplish it, was major. You know what I'm saying?
And it's something to, you know, a lot of times you get, you know, overwhelmed or stressed over things that's coming at you in your life. And then to look at someone of his stature and figure and see how much he's going through, like how real his situation was, like a literal life or death situation, it really makes you a lot more grateful for the circumstances or predicaments you find yourself in, regardless. You know, a lot of people have it way worse. So speaking of that, man, I know you a changed man today, but we want to start from the beginning, as we always do, like your upbringing. I understand you're from Alexandria, Virginia. So what was life like growing up as Black Ceasar?
Well, to say this is the start of the beginning, Alexandria, when I was there, at that time we're going into the crack era. You know, like I was born in '75, and you know, my first memories are vivid of how the city started to change. You know what I'm saying? Like back in Alexandria, they used to call it downtown. Before it was Old Town, before they gentrified and everything like this, there was a lot of black people that were in the neighborhoods in the community that was sitting on, you know, that are $1 $2 million homes now. Back then it was just brothers on the block, you know what I'm saying? So I came in, you know, growing up, I remember how the changes are happening. My grandfather at the time lived in the projects and things like that, so I'm going and spending time with him. But if you're in Alexandria, there used to be a skating ring. The first thing I remember, one of the vivid memories I have is somebody getting popped at the skating ring. You know what I'm saying? But not too long after that, I believe it was like 85, 86, we moved to Woodbridge. And it was completely different. Like, the only thing that they had in Woodbridge when I moved out there was like a Kmart and a couple of stores. It wasn't like Woodbridge is now. Okay. So, growing up, it was kind of hectic, you know what I'm saying? Growing up, I seen a lot, seen too much that I wasn't supposed to see.
Yeah. Was Woodbridge a safer environment for y'all from Alexandria? Or?
At that time, yeah. I believe that had we maybe stayed in Alexandria, I probably wouldn't be here to tell the story.
It was bad there.
Yeah, Alexandria being right there, DC, right there, PG County.
Yeah. And
like I said, at this time, you know, not only is hip hop exploding, but you got the crack movement exploding at this time. So I think it was a blessing that we moved to Woodbridge.
That makes sense though when you say how what is Old Town now was actually downtown. Because it's a lot of historic, even the historic Alfred Street Baptist Church there. Yeah. Like that's a legendary black church, you know, right there. And I always wonder, like, how is that just, you know, this the history.
It's the history. And the thing is see, Alfred Street, I actually went there for a little while in the 90s, but prior to that, it's always been there. I mean, I've always lived there, but like I said, I honestly do believe that the move that my grandmother, and I was just talking to my mom about this last night, I was like, how did we end up in Woodbridge? Now, I had an uncle that owned the house there, but it's like, how did that conversation even come? And she said, your grandmother made a sacrifice for us so we would have somewhere better to live. You know what I'm saying? God rest her soul. So for her to have the capacity to say, hey, we're going to move there, was a definite blessing, you know.
That happens. That's what it takes, is someone breaking that mold, you know, switching up the dynamic and paving the way for the future generations. So from Woodbridge, you say this is mid 80s when y'all are there.
Yeah, we moved, I believe, 85.
Okay.
85, and at this time, this is along the same time I heard hip hop and I loved hip hop, but this is when I really developed, you know, what I wanted to do as far as hip hop goes. So that's like was a big influence. Like Crush Groove is out at this time. You know, Major, I believe, what else was out at that time? In 85, you had Crush Groove, you had Run DMC, you have the Beastie Boys, and I'm just sitting here just absorbing it like a sponge.
Was you into music? Because like you actually witnessed the development of hip hop. Were you into music?
I was into music. The crazy thing is, and this goes back to Alexandria, my grandfather was a DJ. And he DJ'd a lot of places in Alexandria, the Elks Home, the Canale Club, the Sargis. It's like many different places. They gentrified now, but back then that's where he was DJing at. And with my father not being around at that time, because by this time moms and pops is split, he was like the male influence in my life. So it was cool because I think around 7 is when he actually had me behind, you know what I'm saying, his equipment. And I was just enamored, but it wasn't just a hip hop, it was a love for music thing at that point. So my first joint was the music, and then I think not too long after that, right before we moved to Woodbridge, you know, breaking came out. So everybody wanted to be a break dancer, and Michael Jackson. So dancing was the thing. So the first thing that I would say that I did was DJ'd and danced.
And at this time, it was more like, what you call it, like house music, right? Is that?
No. It was straight hip hop.
Oh, this was.
But you got to remember, hip hop in Virginia didn't slap as fast as it did everywhere else in New York and the culture. So we getting stuff on, like, that's the cool thing about now is like something drop is there.
Yeah.
Immediately. Like we could go in right now, take a couple of hours, record something, and we can drop it on all platforms like that. Back then it took a while to get to you because you waiting on
it to hit your region.
So for me it was like I'm getting everything a little later.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it was pure hip hop. You know what I'm saying? So I'm getting it a little bit late, but once I got it, I sucked it up. It was like, yo, what
was it about it? Just something new, innovative?
It was new, it was innovative, man. It opened my eyes up to so many things. I can tell you it's like definitive moments. Like the first time I heard, and the crazy thing is the way that the wave would go. Now I would go to North Carolinas in the summer. I don't know how it skipped, but back then the music would hit New York. It would skip over the DMV area. It would go to Carolina and then come back up. I don't know what that was, what the algorithm was, but I was getting music when I would go to Carolina, so I would be excited to go to Carolina. I'm like, okay, the song that first really got me hooked, and like I said, I heard stuff before, but it was Nightmares by Dana Dane, and I heard that chilling with my older cousin. We was in my grandfather's car. We would go out in the car and listen to music, and I heard Nightmares. I was like, yo, this is, whoa. So at that point, I'm locked into hip hop. I'm like, yo, this is, I want to get everything I can get, and I would just, whatever I could get my hands on music-wise, I would get my hands on, tape, record, whatever. And that's, that was the influence.
Yeah, just something, it's funny how one record like that can just buy you over to the whole genre.
But I didn't even know the process. The crazy thing is, I'll never forget, I was performing, this is when we were in Woodbridge, and I was in the 7th grade, and it was a talent show.
Mm-hmm.
So all I know is, like, I'm just listening to the music. I'm not even concepting, creating, but I wanted to do it. So I go and try out for the talent show. I do Kool Moe Dee's How You Like Me Now. I haven't concepted that, you know what I'm saying? I got to write my own rhymes, but I just want to perform. And I'll never forget it. There was a gentleman, and a lot of people in the Northern Virginia area know him as Spanky. He's in go-go groups. Rashawn Bird and Clyde Mason did their own original raps in Woodbridge. These are the first cats that I heard that came up with original stuff. Like I said, me concepting, I'm emulating my favorite rapper. These brothers did it, and that's what changed me. I'm like, I gotta write my own stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because you went up there and performed his record.
Kool Moe Dee's record. Exactly.
Okay.
Not concepting at that time that I have to sit down and pen my own rhymes. I'm just doing it for the love because this is new. And these brothers came in. They were a grade ahead of me. You know what I'm saying? I looked up to them. I'm like, yo, they just, whoa.
Okay.
It blew my mind.
Okay.
Like, okay, now I know I got to go write and pen my own stuff up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So you obviously started as a fan first of hip-hop.
Absolutely.
And I feel like that has never really left you in everything you do even today. Because you always have some sort of hip-hop reference of, oh, someone's done this before, and it inspires you a new idea, and a lot of times we just run off of that. Like Ceasar's the visionary for a lot of the music we make, and it just be something that he, was inspired from way back in the day, and he'll reinvent it, and that's how a lot of our music comes about. Like it might be something I don't know nothing about. Some of even the samples, I don't even know what they are, and and C's hit me to what that is. So how did you become so knowledgeable on the old school music that you're sampling like today?
Well, once again, that goes back to, like I said, being around my grandfather. My grandfather as a DJ, and I did that for a spell, and I'm probably going to get back into it soon. But he told me, he said, you should never go into anywhere and not be prepared to play. So if I go and get hired for a job, right, and there's nothing but white people that like country in the room, but they hired me, I should know the music.
Yeah, read the room.
You got to read the room. So for me, that's always been my thing, is to listen and observe and be able to read the room and be able to manifest different ideas that's coming out of my head. And like I said, I just love music. So I mean, I'm the dude that will sit there on my downtime and watch documentaries. Like I just watched a documentary yesterday called Yacht Rock, and I love it because I'm getting the knowledge from behind what their thoughts were, what their process was, what they did creatively, and it I'm going to pull it into my world and say, okay, well they did this, how can I take the knowledge that I've gotten from there and do that? Like that's what kind of upsets me about music nowadays, is because anything that you do, you have to be prepared. You have to study. Like, what does basketball players do? They go back and watch what was before them. They watch game tape. They watch XYZ to get better. We don't generally, we go with what we think and what's now, as opposed to going back and saying, okay, this worked, this worked, this worked, this worked, but how can I put my spin and play on it? I believe anything you want to be good in, you got to study. So that's what I study. I study music, all kinds.
Yeah.
I don't just limit it to hip hop. Like, you go into my record, like my record collection has everything from rock to jazz to country to gospel, everything. You're not going to not see a genre of music in my record collection. You're going to see every genre.
Right. So I guess, so with that, I mean, you probably don't even have a favorite album, song, none of that, or even genre. I mean,
Well, I mean, hip hop is always going to be my love.
Yeah.
It's always going to be my love. But if you look at hip hop is a gumbo of other things.
Yeah.
So that allows me to be in that creative space and however I want to be, just based off of, I can bring anything into it. I could watch a cartoon and hear something and be like, yo, I'm going to use this. And that's just me being a sampling producer. I can use anything and reimagine it and flip it my way.
Yeah. And a lot of the records we do are more so soulful samples. And I know you mentioned to me recently that your grandfather was in a band, right?
My grandfather wasn't in a band. My biological father was in a band. He played percussion. He played in the DMV area, in funk bands and go-go bands. Okay,
funk and go-go. But your grandfather is who really got you onto the older music.
Yeah, the older music. Oh no, I know what you're talking about. My other grandfather, he was actually in a gospel quartet.
A gospel quartet.
He was in a gospel quartet. So yeah.
So yeah, you sort of come from a musical family at least. So, and I know you said you started off, penning your own music. So you were an artist first.
And still an artist to this day. I don't do it as frequently. Real life hit, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And because we have, and it's changing now. The culture's changing now, but there was a time where being an older rapper was not cool. So I kind of dropped that and focused on production, because at the time, we talking around the time I met you, I was still actively rapping at that time.
Right.
But at that time, it was like, it was taboo to be a rapper, past your 20s. We see a change in that now. So that's something that I just got to get back in the habit of doing. But I love rapping. I mean, I'm not as the most person with the most flow or this, that, or the third, but I'm like your Charles Barkley. I can come in there and just kind of roughhouse you and, you know what I'm saying, do what I do and get off a track.
So what do you feel like was your purpose of actually writing music as an artist from that standpoint?
I think at that standpoint, that's when I started doing it. Once again, it was for the love, and I was like, I can do this. And the thing about it, it was challenging when I was doing it. Like, I tell people this, like, God brought me a long way, because for somebody that used to have a stuttering problem, and when I say stuttering, I had to go through speech therapy. I couldn't get a sentence out, and has dyslexia. For me to be able to do that, that was my outlet. I can, spit, and I can write and do this, that, and the third. But, you coming from a person that used to stutter and a person that still, dealing with dyslexia.
So that, I can see how it helps. I've heard that before. It helps with, what is it, metronomes, or like just being at a rhythm is.
No, for me, it was kind of the challenge. It's kind of the challenge. Like, I'm not gonna let this stop me.
Yeah.
Because I love it so much. My dedication was like, I love this so much. I'm going to do it. I'm going to rap. And then after a while, the clique that I was with, we kind of disbanded, and I ended up being back in Alexandria. This is like I think I was like 18, 19 at the time, and I'm sitting down in my grandfather's basement. He let me stay with him, and it's a basement full of records. And I'm like, all right, I don't got nobody to do my beats. I'm gonna start doing it myself. And that was the challenge of it.
Yeah.
Was going in and saying, I love this so much, I'm still going to do it. Same thing when cats stop dancing, I'm going to rhyme. So it's like, I love the culture so much, I always find my way to reinvent myself and continue to press on for my love of it.
Yeah. So producing obviously took over as far as like your identity today. Like, you're more well known for your production than your actual rapping.
Mm-hmm.
So what is that I'm just trying to get out, like, your production is that your love now? Like,
I love it all. I love it all. That's just where I'm the most comfortable at now. And I kind of it was a fork in the road, and this is not too long after I met, shout out to Hurricane, Master Hurricane.
Yeah.
Me and my boy from NY, we was working on a project, and I'm sitting here, I'm rapping, but I'm making beats at the same time. Hurricane is like, you need to get such and such, so I go get it. He got it. I got to get the, at the time, the ASR 10. He went and he got the other, what was the other equipment that we had? The Triton.
Yeah.
He said, go get the Triton. So I get the Triton, I'm following Kane. And we were sitting in the room one day, and he was like, no, we were sitting in the car. He said, look, man, you're a dope rapper, but you're a better producer. And once again, this is at this time where, I'm getting older. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm getting older, things is changing.
Dope.
But he was like, yo, you a better producer. And I was like, oh, word, you think so? So at that point, that became my focal point. And it was just easier. Trying to raise a family, doing X, Y, and Z. I don't got time to sit here and pin things out when I'm raising children and going through. So, but I could get on, boom, get the idea for production out.
So let me ask you this. That brings me to another question. When you say, at this stage, you're getting older, you have a family, you're raising children, how does your personal life coincide with your music?
The personal side, I would say, the biggest thing for me is, when I started producing, my thing was I want to be able to create stories. I've done the artist, so I think that that's what makes me a different producer, is because I can go in. Most producers maybe started off with DJs or whatever, and they got an idea and they just do X, Y, Z. I've done it in all capacities. I know what sounds good. I know what's going to hit. I know, what kind of project or what kind of song we can come up with. It's like when I come to most artists, I think I'm more vocal. Like a lot of producers now will give out the track and let the artist do such and such. I'm going to have insight. I might have a sample with the chorus already looped in because I have an idea of what I want to see on this track. So I think that coming from that perspective kind of makes me a little different than most producers. It's like, we're going to tell a story, and all you have to do is bring your pen to what's already created. You know what I'm saying? Like, look at it as like a movie. Mm-hmm. I'm putting the score together, and you just gonna go in and do the movie part, but I'm doing the score.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes sense. And I know the no cap audience, they probably see the big G on your chest. That's a G, right?
Yeah, that's a G.
Yeah. Tell us about your masonry work.
The masonry work, and y'all will probably hear this throughout here. I would say probably the biggest male influence in my life was my grandfather. And he was a Mason. And for me, just looking at it from the outside, looking in, I knew it was something a little bit differently. It was something a little bit different. And, it was just this influence. And y'all have to work with me for a little bit, because when I'm talking about my grandfather still...
Yeah, this is recent.
It's recent. He passed in September.
So is this your biological grandfather?
Yes.
Okay.
My mother's father.
Your mother's father, and this is the one that was in the gospel quartet.
No, that was my father.
That's your father.
But this is the one that DJing.
In the basement.
In the basement.
Okay.
DJing.
Okay.
This is the one that had the fashion sense. Like, my grandfather was cool as hell. Like,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If you don't know nothing about him, he was cool. Like, so it was an influence. I wanted, like, this is who I emulated myself after. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, as far as the masonry thing goes, it was like, he never pushed me to it. He never even like really said you should be in it or anything like that, but because he was in it, I wanted to be in it. But he would kind of direct me away because he knew at that time I wasn't ready for that. And the crazy thing is when I finally told him, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going XYZ, and he wasn't as active just because of his age, but he was like, yeah, you ready now. It's like he knew. You know what I'm saying? Wow. Yeah, so that's
how long have you been in it now?
I'm going into my 7th year. What, 2000? Yeah, I'm going into my 7th year now.
Okay. So you obviously had like good positive male role models in your life, from your grandfathers, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of young men today that don't have that. And you see, I don't really look at anybody as like just throwaway, because I really think that people are good people. Most people are generally good people. Not you can be good people, but a lot of people are just lost. So what advice would you give a young man or young woman that may just be lost or off track, that don't have those role models like that?
Well, I say the big thing, and I can say, I had my role models and my mentors, but they weren't perfect. You know what I'm saying? By no means was my grandfather perfect. No means was my father or stepfather perfect. you may be upset about how you grew up, right? I didn't get this. My mom didn't do this. My father didn't do this. Blah, 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 blah. But when we look back in the generations, they were raised differently. They were raised harder. So we have to give grace to them, because just like we're not perfect, growing up as a father, I wasn't a perfect father. But as time goes on, we do things a little bit differently, because you got to think about it, man. Our people, my mom lived during the Jim Crow era.
Yeah.
My mother lived through the Jim Crow era. So you think her mother, a generation away from sharecroppers.
Yeah. So they just really didn't have the resource or knowledge to do.
Yeah. And they did the best that they could.
Yeah.
They may have been harder on us because they don't want us in the situation to where we may not be here, where we may die. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to think about that. It's like, you know, yeah, my mom wasn't perfect. My father wasn't perfect, but what did they go through? Like, my mom, she said she pushed a lot of stuff out because she was just trying to deal with what was going on with her and her life at that time. And I'm sitting back as an adult. Now I can talk to her as an adult and understand, because there were certain things that I didn't do with my children. You know what I mean? But who am I to judge her or judge my father or judge anyone that was older than me around what they were dealing with, what they were dealing with? And at our communities at the time, you don't tell nobody your business. You don't go to therapy. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, we didn't have those resources and things like that. So that would be number one, what I would tell a younger person. Give grace to those that were before you, because they may have been trying their best with the knowledge that they had at that time, which may have not been much. Number two, I would say, have your relationship with God. That's self-explanatory. You know what I'm saying? There's things that I've been through that I wouldn't have been able to get through without God. So,
So speaking of that, because in recent years, since Growing Pains 1, I think we did the Growing Pains 1 album maybe in 2019. And then here we are, just completed the Growing Pains 2. So toast to that. Let's toast to that.
for sure.
Growing Pains 2. And what I've seen so much change in you from 2019 to 2025. That 6 years has been like a night and day. So what is your biggest testimony that you would like to share with the audience, that you're comfortable sharing with them, that may inspire and encourage them?
I would say, for me, would be submitting and letting, like the old people say, let go and let God. Is getting into a place where I was comfortable, not because somebody told me I needed God, not because somebody told me I need to go to church or whatever, but it was truly just saying, I'm gonna give it to you. You know what I mean? Because honestly, when you try to control all situations, it burns you out. It puts you on the course of being ready to snap. And for somebody that has been married multiple times, has children, has XYZ, and been through a lot, for me it was like when I made the decision to say, I don't care what this person doing, I don't care what this person doing, it's not going to affect my peace. I'm giving it to God. I'm sitting here and saying, okay, I don't understand everything that's going on, but God, you got this. So for me, when I came to that point, it just transformed my life. It's like, there was a time where I felt like to get by, I had to, drink, or I had to lay up with somebody, or I had to such and such. That ain't where it's at no more. That ain't. I'm almost 50 years old. I'll be 50 in 2 months, bro.
So what did you fill those voids with?
Well, I had a counselor one time says, Javon, you're addicted to addiction. So it might be, at one time it may have been music, may have been sex, may have been alcohol, may have been, you know what I'm saying? Like whatever distracted me from what I was really dealing with. And for me, to sit back and finally say, okay, like I said, I'm going to give it up to God, but I'm also going to do the work and to change it. I have to have those hard conversations. If one of my sons come and say, you hurt me, or you did X, Y, Z, I have to have that conversation now. You know what I mean?
So you think prior to you was sort of running from yourself or your pain or situations?
Yeah, absolutely. But I finessed it. Like, I was the person that would come out and say, it's my way or the highway. I don't care what you think. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. I didn't care about other people's feelings. You know what I'm saying?
Wow. So you just recently humbled yourself from this.
Yeah.
Within these 6 years.
I don't like the word humble though either.
Because you're still not humble.
To an extent. Because if I'm doing something well, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm that type of person. I'm kind of like a flashy, braggadocious, peacock type dude. Like that's just me. So I would say that, I give praise to who praise is due, but I'm still great on the other hand of the coin.
Yeah. So you think it's just a confidence that you...
I think it's a confidence.
That you just walk in.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to. I believe you have to have confidence.
Yeah, so if you mix that with not caring about other people, or their feelings at least, it comes across very arrogant.
For those in the church people that might be watching, I'm just going to be transparent. I cuss a little bit every once in a while. I cuss a lot. That's something that I cuss. But I was an asshole. And prided myself on being an asshole.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I prided myself on that.
Yeah, that was your strength.
Yeah, that was my strength. Yeah, and it definitely was a strength, because at that point, like, whether I'm down or not, you are never going to know it. You're never going to know that I'm down. Like, I'm going to look at you and make you feel like I have an upper hand, and like this doesn't bother me.
So you was just in constant competition with any and everybody too? Like, you
not necessarily that, but
have the upper hand?
But I felt like I have to have the upper hand. Like, there's a certain level
of
control. Huh?
That's competition.
Not competition. If you don't come at me, it ain't competition.
Okay. So it's just people that you had altercations with, then it's...
I'm not going to say it was just people that I had altercations with. Like, if I've justified it in my head, and this is where the change comes in at, is, like, if my kids, like, they're all older now, but let's theoretically say we got a situation, and just the way that I came up is like, the parent is going to be right, and you justify X, Y, Z. So I got to the point where I was so good at justifying everything, I had a reason for it. And whether that reason was good or bad, I'm going to stand on that reason. So if you come to me and say, well, you hurt my feelings, well, I'm sorry your feelings were hurt, but this is where I'm coming from. As opposed to just drawing back and saying, well, go a little bit deeper for me. Why did you feel like you were hurt? Not showing empathy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not giving up the vulnerability to say, I can understand why you felt that way, because I felt this way when I was growing up. Mm-hmm. And that's the difference.
Yeah, I'm just getting at, the thing is, competing is if you're just competing with people to say, oh, I have the upper hand over you, you'll find yourselves in a lot of battles that you don't need to be in.
But here's the thing, when you coming up and you feel like the people that are around you that's supposed to look out for you hurt you, right? The people that are around you don't understand where you're necessarily coming from. You come to a point where you don't want to be damaged, so you create a shell and you protect yourself. And that's where I think that I was more in at, was protecting myself, because I didn't want to be hurt, because I've been hurt so many times previous too. So it's kind of funny. It happened in the 90s. I mean, for a while I took on the Tupac and Juice persona. I don't give a F about nothing. This is what it is. You know, I'm not going to get hurt. You're not going to get the advantage on me. You're not going to, you know what I'm saying?
Do you think you carried that mentality into like all of the relationships in your life?
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Like how did you like ever get in a romantic relationship or like succeed in it? If that's
I didn't. That's why I've been divorced 3 times. I didn't succeed. So
you were literally in competition with, you know, someone actually told me this not too long ago. They said everybody is either you can sum them up in 2 categories. They're either a contributor or competitor. That's why, you know, when I hear the word competing, it's such a trigger word, because
well, for me, I was both. Because I'm the type of person that I will give a person my last. I'll give a person my last. And I was even like that then. You know what I'm saying? I would give you my last. Like, I will fight for those who I care for and love for. I don't know if you ever watched the stories, man. But back in the day, well, even now, he's still around, Victor Newman on The Young and the Restless. And Victor is controlling as all they get out. He run everybody's business. His kids' business, his wife's business, ex-wife's business, XYZ. And where he's coming from is a good place, right? And he's trying to do the best, but he's always in front of himself. And that's where the damage comes in at. And I believe that outside of being rich like Victor, I think that that's where I would say where I was at. It was like, yeah, you're in my circle, and I'm doing this because I want to provide, protect, and do X, Y, Z for you. But I gotta be in control. So I think I'm a little bit of both. And when I was going, it was my 3rd marriage. We separated twice before we divorced, but the first time, and I turned 40, and I had to really look at myself at that point. When I tell everybody, I didn't have any real good sense until I turned 40. And with that being said, I was by myself. I had to sit with myself. And that's where the change and the transformation in me as a person developed, was then when I turned 40. And then the next ramp up was when I got back into church.
Okay, so I guess at that time, because that's very important if you really want to, you know, after you go through anything traumatic, to really just sit with yourself and reflect on this lessons learned. And then it's sort of, you have to identify the problem first. So at 40, did you identify the problem and take accountability, or was this something you were still...
I took accountability because I started having the conversations, like I said, that I really didn't want to have.
Yeah.
But I had to have them. Like, my oldest son he's very vocal. You know what I'm saying? And he was kind of key in that he was the one that said, "Nah, Dad, you're an asshole." And I allowed him to say it, because at this point I'm like, I've been doing a lot wrong. You know what I mean? I have to look at them and treat them different. I have to be compassionate. I have to not live in my world because they're all different individuals from, my kids, from the women that I deal with. Like, I'll be honest with you, man. I literally went and apologized to exes and stuff like that I did wrong. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have come across that way. I didn't know no better. You know what I'm saying? But now I know, so I'm going to acknowledge it and I'm going to apologize. And what can we do to make things better? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we might not be together, but I'm not going to not acknowledge what you felt or what you went through because of me.
Yeah. And that's very important, not to hold that grudge and just, forgiveness is a powerful tool. What can you tell us about forgiving?
Forgiving, it is a very powerful tool, because here's the thing: if I'm sitting here and I'm angry at somebody else and I'm carrying it, I'm carrying the burden. You know what I mean? That person might be in their house asleep, not thinking about me, but I'm sitting there mad at them. What sense does that make?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It destroys the vessel that holds it.
Yeah. I may be blocking a blessing because I'm sitting here mad at you and I'm going at you. You create dissension, you create things like that, you be on your get back. But they say now, oh, I'm going to be petty. How much energy does it take for you to be petty towards someone else?
Man, you know what someone just recently told me. They said, you've healed from something when you no longer regret that it happened. You know what I'm saying? So I think about, all that you went through and the mistakes you made and how you learned from them and sat with yourself. What do you think was your best decision through all of that?
As far as best decision go, that's kind of a hard one because, well, I'll say the fact of I can look at my children now and they might not necessarily be where I want them to be, but I can fall back and be a father and be there for them and allow them to move forward without judgment. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like, they're becoming their own individual and their own men, and we talk and that they feel comfortable coming to me and talking to me. And that's how the healing and the process begins, because at the end of the day, I don't want them growing up to feel like, and even though they're men now, that dad didn't have an open door policy. You know what I'm saying? There's some things I don't agree with, but I would never let that interfere with, my kids.
Yeah. Do you think that's your biggest accomplishment, raising your children?
No, I don't think that's my biggest accomplishment, because I don't feel like I was a great dad. I don't feel like I was, at sometimes, even a good dad. I did the best that I knew how. You know what I mean? Like, growing up without a consistent father in your life, like I said, I've had male role models, but they weren't perfect. And just not being able to necessarily always be what they needed. So I wouldn't say that's my biggest accomplishment. I would say my biggest accomplishment is being able to be transparent with those that I love and I care about. Being able to say, hey, look, like, I can teach through not so much being great, but my mistakes, and this is what you probably don't want to do. You know what I mean? So I would say just being able to be transparent, being able to say, yeah, I did this, being able to be imperfect, and being able to give a lesson out of being imperfect
Mm.
and speaking truth. A lot of people, they cover up who they are, who they really are. I'm going to give you all of me and anything I do. And sometimes that hurts. It's like almost like you have a scar and you rip that Band-Aid off and then you put it back on and you're healing. But to be changing and to be transparent, every time I got to rip that Band-Aid off again. But it's a difference for somebody else, because they're saying, okay, well, he's here now, but he wasn't always there.
Yeah, yeah. And you real big. You're very involved in church now. Like, how are you enjoying that? What's that journey been like for you?
It's been a good journey. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Growing up, I grew up in church, like from my early teens on, but it was more or less something that was pushed on me. I really didn't want to do it then. So yeah, it wasn't my thing, but I can say now it's been a blessing because I have a relationship for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I can see what having a relationship does. I can see the changes with those that are around me. I can see the changes within myself. When I start going to the current church I'm going to now in Rock, I was in a very bad place. I was with the ex, and we were having our problems. I had my own problems and things I was going with too, and I mean, I was drinking on a consistent basis, and the difference maker was they didn't judge me. I would come up in that junk smelling like straight liquor, sometimes high, and drinking. And the pastor one day, I was in there, and he told me, he said, I don't care how much liquor you drink. I don't care if you just had a fifth before you come in here. Just keep coming. Just keep coming. That's what pastor told me. Just keep coming. And anytime that I needed a prayer or something was going on, they prayed for me. So for them, they all know, because they can smell it on me and XYZ, to not treat me no different made a difference.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For them to, and now it's like I haven't been looking for things, because I kind of sat still in the church for a while. Like, I wasn't trying to be involved in any type of ministry or anything like that. But now, I mean, if it's asked or if God lead me, I'm going to do it, because, you know what I'm saying, just what they've done for me and what God has done for me, who would I be not to come back and serve in some capacity?
Yeah.
And I'm still not perfect. I'm not gonna say I don't. I don't.
That's
drink
all right,
anymore,
man.
You know what I mean?
That's all
but
right,
it's
man.
the steps.
Proud of you, man. Your progress, man.
It.
It's
Same with
admirable.
you.
Admirable, man. Yeah, we performing that Thank God at church was incredible, man. I've done gospel music like for church events over, in Mayfield and stuff, but that was a totally different experience doing that. And really the song after, like, breaking down like that, man. Like,
but that's the thing, is like, when you tell that story, you got to tell the whole story of the journey.
I don't think I would get through it, man. I can't get through telling that.
So for people that's watching this now, the first thing is, we created that song probably around at least anywhere between 12 to 15 years ago. I'm not sure how long it was, but
yeah.
It's been a while when we created that song. And you got to understand, with us, when we did it, we was just doing it from a creative standpoint. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't involved in church the way that I am, and neither were you, right? And then you fast forward, we've had this ongoing relationship as far as music go, as far as friends go, and XYZ. And I'm gonna tell y'all how God works. So, to be transparent, when we did Growing Pains 1, we had a falling out or whatever. And it wasn't nothing never personal. He was going through what he was going through at that time, and I was going through what I was going through. Not knowing that we had similar situations that was going on at that time in real time.
And the thing about it was, we would talk in the music.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the studio, it's sort of, you know, we would talk, but it was like we were just we were ventilating through the music. We
Mm-hmm.
weren't really just sitting down like this having like discussions. It was just we were using the music to speak.
And that's what Growing Pains was for, because I had been through where I'd been through in my journey. And I remember when we talked about the first project, you was in my living room and I was going through stuff with my ex at that time, and you was going through, but we never really discussed that. Because men, we keep things on a surface level. We talk about sports, we talk about music, we talk about women, XYZ. So it's very surface. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't know what he was going through, and he didn't know what I was going through. So you fast forward, and that was part of my growth, because at this time, you know, when we going at it, I said, look, I'm not going to, it is what it is, but I can't, you know, this is disturbing my peace at this time. And I feel like if it's something that's disturbing my peace, I'm going to remove myself from it, you know, but there was never any hard feelings. So with that being said, time goes on, still not knowing what you're going through, because we're not having that conversation. Because I'm going through my own personal hell at this time. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to just saying, hey, we need to rap and talk about this XYZ. And you going through yours. And then to fast forward, y'all, what happened is situation played out with him and Hurricane. He hits me up. He's like, yo, you need to talk to him. I was like, okay. And then we saw each other at Hurricane's party, his birthday party, and a little time goes.
No, I invited you here. That
was after Kane's party.
Yeah,
we saw you.
Party, yeah.
So at this point, you did invite me over, and things like that, and not knowing the capacity of your situation, we talk about that, and then I tell you, like, yo, come to church. You know what I'm saying? So this is the difference in me, because it's just like, before I would have been like, man, I hate to hear that. It's like, hey, I don't know, I can't tell you what's going to happen, but come to church. Come to church. He comes into the church. Now, I don't talk to the pastor what's going on about his situation. I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
But God saw it and directed the pastor, and at that time, pastor calls you up. So it wasn't nothing but God, because I didn't tell him nothing.
Out the blue.
Out the blue. Called him, and they prayed for this brother, and he went through his situation.
I'm talking about the entire church. Like,
yeah. So
huddled up. And I was like, I'm sitting there wondering, like, man, how do they know? It's like I was just...
They don't. It's God, man.
It's like
God.
I was see-through in there.
Yeah, so with that being said, that's what led to that. So when, last month, we fast forward all this time, and we talking about a song that's over 10 years old. Mm-hmm. We talking about, even the other song, like that whole set was dope. Even the other song. Yeah. He didn't even want to be on the other song. The God's Power joint. You didn't even want to be on that, remember?
Yeah. I didn't even.
He didn't see it, but it was a dynamic performance, and what was cool about it, it was truly we living out growing pains in real time. From something that come from the past, from something to come into church and to see everything coming full circle, and where you've come from that situation at the time when you was at the church and where you are now has been nothing but blessings.
Unbelievable.
So
unbelievable.
And to see your family come the next day. Like the caveat was they wanted to hear the song, so he did a back to back. He did an encore performance.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Encore.
Which was cool.
Yeah. And I was like, man, this I can't break down up here again. I said, let me get out of here, man.
Ain't nothing wrong with that though, man.
And he was just, he was just like, man, I can see your growth, and I just know a lot more people can benefit from that story. And I do, I am going to share it, whether it's in the church, on the podcast, in some interview or capacity. But I definitely want to, use that story, that testimony to inspire others. I think that's what it's for, to inspire others, your story. Because you can only really tell it through music so much. That's what we were doing. Yeah, you might tell me, oh, this happened. I might tell you, oh, such and such happened. But then we just going in the booth and just we speak in there. We're not sitting down communicating effectively like this.
But I think we do now, though. I mean,
now, But like at that time, we was going through something at the studio. Was the only time. That wasn't enough,
And that's what I tell anybody at this point, especially black men, is communicating is the key. We gotta reach out to each other. We gotta get past the surface and things like that. It's not what they say. Iron sharpens iron.
Absolutely.
So we have to get past the surface and talking to our brothers. I forgot who it was that told me, but they say that you should have 3 type of groups of men in your life. You should have a young man to give back to a mentor. You should have someone around your age or at your level that you can communicate and go through it with. And then you should have an older man where you're getting knowledge and gaining and being mentored. And it's a cycle. And that's where we, as black men, have dropped the ball. You know what I'm saying? Is we go through it ourselves. We go through that pain ourselves. I'm pretty sure had we had the conversation, you being where you are and where I was at that time, we were in pretty much the same spot. But we never communicated or talked about it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is we have to be transparent as men and give each other wise counsel at the end of the day. And if I don't have the answer, we got to be open and to say, okay, look, I ain't never necessarily went through that situation, but I know somebody, you know what I'm saying, that can assist you in that process. And that's where we drop the ball at, and that's what we got to get better at.
And just the humility it takes to just sit and admit that. Just sit here and admit, like, we didn't communicate outside of the music to a degree. I mean, I think that was it. And I think in the difference between that Growing Pains 1 and Growing Pains 2 is that the story that's being told in Growing Pains 2 is what we lived out together. Like, you saw how my situation transpired. I saw how yours worked out. And now we're just telling the story that we both know. And then you came, tell this story and this, a record like this and this. So it was a lot more cohesiveness. More collaboration,
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm super excited about it, man. So what else? Tell us, what else is next for Black Seas?
For Black Seas, well, I think we got to get to the point where, and this is funny because I have a unique name, Javon. I have 5 names actually: Javon, Edward, Monte, Aaron, Calvin. Right? And growing up, I never liked the name Javon. Never really liked that name. So I created a moniker, which is Black Seas. So Black Seas is that confident, cocky part of me.
Yeah.
Right? That's going to perform. That's going to do what I got to do to be the life of the party and things like that. But now that I'm getting older, and mind you, I was told as a kid, you won't see 18. You'll be dead or in jail. Thank God I'm not dead. I'll be 50 in two months. The longest I've been in jail was for 3 days. So that was shattered. But the big thing is for me to stop living out the moniker, which I think I'm doing better in, and start being Javon the man at the end of the day.
Okay.
Javon is the father. Javon is going to be the person that's going to be involved. Javon is going to be the person that helps. Like, they joke about it. You in church, I done got away from XYZ. I'm Brother Javon now.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
That's going that's going to help out in the community. That's going to be there if you need a listening ear. That's going to, be there for my kids. That's where it is. Now, as far as Black Caesar go, I'm just going to keep rolling like I'm rolling with the music.
Yeah. So a lot of personal growth and development for you in the upcoming future. And when you speak of Black Caesar, before we get out of here, just knowing your style, if you could first just explain your style to people that may want to work with you, and then I want to ask who you want to work with.
As far as my style goes, I would say if you like 90s, and I hate to date it, but 90s boom bap, that's me all day. I'm going to give you samples. I'm going to give you soul. Like, I think that's why I don't get into today's music as much, because it doesn't have that soul. You brought up earlier that I use certain soulful samples is because I want you to feel it. I want you, when you hear something, you to feel it. I don't.
And to be honest, that's a great way to describe your overall, but man, a lot of your music is jazzy, melodic, something even in the pocket. It's not all just boom bap. Like, I get.
Well, the pocket, that for me, that's, if you ever notice and you break it down, a lot of times I use 2-bar loops in my production style, and I think that comes from being in the DMV area. In DMV we call it the pocket. I'm a pocket producer, so if you listen to the go-go music, they in that it's in the pocket. So as a producer, I'm in the pocket always. The jazz that comes from, like I said, being around my grandfather. I also coming up when De La Soul and Tribe was around and things like that. And now even like if you look at it, the jazzy part is he's Alchemist is a jazzy producer. Premier was a jazzy producer. If you look at the Griselda cast, Freddie Gibbs is all in that jazzy pocket. So that's where that comes from, as far as my influence goes.
So what kind of artists do you think would work well, or you will work well with?
I would say I can work well with just about any artist that has an open mind. I'll say any artist that has an open mind, I'm willing to work with. Now, obviously, and I don't, because they've done anything, so I don't want to disparage them or anything like that, but like a mumble rapper probably isn't the best fit, right? It's probably not a good fit for me because they like what they like. You know what I'm saying? I like what I like. So obviously that's probably not going to work to the best. But if it's somebody that is right there on the edge, like great project came out this week. I never thought I would see it. Alchemist, 2 Chainz, and Larry June.
What?
Got a whole album. And 2 Chainz floated on them joints.
I bet.
He floated. It worked. You know what I'm saying? But that was him having an open mind. That was Alchemist having an open mind. So,
wow.
If somebody can float, it don't matter if you're doing what's current now. But if we can get in that little groove in that little pocket, we're going to work well together.
That's dope, bro. That's dope. Yeah, I'm excited for who you would collaborate with, because it would be an unprecedented project like that,
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. It's like when we making music, it depends on what the ultimate goal is to make music. Like me, at this point, I don't make music just to make music. You know what I'm saying? It got to have a purpose.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if we're not coming up with a concept, I don't even want to really deal with it. I don't want to just throw a beat. I'm sitting on, in the last 3 years, I've probably made close to 2,000 beats. And they sit. because I'm not going to just throw them out there just to get out there. I mean, I've done all that. Like, at this point, it got to have a purpose. If it ain't got no purpose, why do it? With everything that's going on in the world nowadays,
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's real easy. Like, I'll quote something that we did together. You said, the club owner said, don't make them read, make them dance. Yeah. I want y'all out there reading. I don't want you to just dance. We got enough of that. Let's go out and make music with a purpose. I'm not discarding that, but there has to be a balance. When I was coming up, you may have had NWA, but you had De La Soul at the same time, and they were all out, and they all toured together. Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying that we ain't got to be, hyped up, but I'm not the producer to do that. Let's create a balance.
Mm-hmm. Educate and entertain.
Yeah, and it could be both. Like, there's no reason why cats can't be on the same bill together. We need balance. The problem with music nowadays is there has not been enough balance. Let's get balance back. Yeah. If you want this, that, and the third, you go to this producer. And I will gladly, I know producers from everywhere. I've never stopped the artist and say, oh, I don't do that. Let me hook you up with such and such. And when you're ready to do this, you come holler at me. I got you on these types. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So let's have balance. That's all I'm saying.
Well, y'all done heard it from Black Ceasar himself. Tell them where to find you at, man, if they want to collab with you and reach out to you, man. Let them know.
I'm real easy to find. If you go on Facebook, it's, what is it on Facebook? Dang. Javon
Black
Calvin.
Ceasar, man.
No, it's Javon Calvin on Facebook. JAVONCOWAN. You can look me up there on Facebook. If you're on Instagram, it's OG Black Ceasar. If you go on TikTok, I believe it's OG Black Ceasar as well. Who am I missing? Twitter, OG Black Ceasar.
OG Black Ceasar, man. Y'all heard it here first. Thank you for coming here,
Appreciate
man. Finally,
you, fam.
Long overdue.
We got to do a part 2 when Reese here.
And we going to do that. It's no cap, y'all. Thank y'all for watching.